I hope you're well. I am good myself. Um, Consoh Kijo here. So thank you so much for coming back. For the ones who follow this page, for the ones who are here for the first time, welcome. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Okay. If anything I share does resonate with you, or you feel like it might help someone out there, please don't hesitate to share. So Consoh Kijo, now for the ones who are here for the first time, I started this page with an intention to share my journey as an international student. Came here from Kenya, East Africa, to study in Sydney, Australia, and I've been here for 7 years now. Been here for a long time. Yeah, and so I share my journey, how it was, the challenges, um, the good things, the ups and downs, the opportunities I got here, and all this is with the hope to inspire someone who is somewhere around the world who might be having a desire to study away from their home country, and especially Sydney, Australia. Now, just a disclaimer, I'm very close to a main road and trains will be honking. So if you can hear that, I'm having this mic with the hope that that doesn't happen. But in case it happens, I'm still working on production. Anyway, welcome again. Now, some of the topics I share, I do get inspiration from a lot of things. So it could be something I've gone through that day, something I've had somewhere, and then it triggers a memory. Or it could just be from nowhere. And I just don't think anything happens in vacuum. So I just feel like maybe it's within my spirit that God wants me to share this. Anyway, today I thought I'd share on how one encounter made me just realize that I was one decision away from being homeless as an international student. Now, I know this sounds scary, but I'm not trying to scare anybody here. So all I'm talking about is my story. And I always say that, I always say that I am the expert of my own life. Nobody is able, not even my own mother, nobody is able to give my nobody is able to give my life story better than I can, because I have lived it. I'm not an expert of many things in life, but I'm an expert of one thing for sure. I'm an expert of my own life and my own journey. And so I own up. I own up to the decisions I've made. I own up to the things I've been through. And I take accountability for those decisions that I could have made, because I am absolutely here for the decisions I made yesterday. So anyway, I don't know what inspired this. Like I said, maybe God just whispered I need to talk about it. But I just felt like I should come on here and share about it. Wow, some motorbikes are so loud. Anyway, so why did I say that? I was one decision away from being homeless. That decision, when I say I was one decision away, it's not just me. If I lost my job, I felt like I would have been homeless. If I couldn't cope with, if I just didn't have a good work-life balance when I was at uni, I just could have been homeless. If I got sick and I couldn't work and I couldn't provide for myself, I probably would have been homeless. Why I say that, it's not that nobody could have housed me, but like we always say that all human beings, we all have ego, don't we? Now, I'm not trying to say that I don't have ego. And ego it's actually not a bad thing. It just depends on what you do with it. For myself, I had made a decision that when I left Kenya, that I wanted to work hard when I came here. I didn't want to necessarily depend on my parents. I felt like they had done their best to get me to the level they had got me. And so I felt like I was in a country that had more opportunities than where I had come from. So I felt like I would have done myself a disservice. Probably they wouldn't have minded. As you know, African parents want you to stay home until you're like 50 or whatever. But I knew I had somewhere to go back to. That was my comfort zone. Now, obviously, the saying that you don't get the nicest thing, or you don't even get ahead in life if you're in a comfort zone. You, like, I mean, to get any kind of success, you really have to stretch yourself and you have to go the extra mile. That doesn't come with comfortability. It comes with a lot of discomfort. But you know, there's a funny thing where I just did not want to rely on anybody. So even though I had made a lot of friends, I had a lot of acquaintances, because like you can tell, I like meeting, I like people, I talk. Funny thing, I'm an introvert. I would rather, I recharge by staying alone, by being alone. I really, people don't believe, most people don't believe this, but I recharge by being alone. So I like the hype, I like people, I like associating, but I like my own space. I like my own corner, for lack of a better word. Anyway, so now why I said I was one decision away from being homeless, when I was in second year, I did a unit, and this unit was attached to like a mini internship. So I had to go to an organization and work there or volunteer. Anyway, it's internship. You don't get paid to be there. But I was there for a couple of months. And it was an organization that was dealing with homelessness and homelessness in young people in Australia. I mean, in Sydney. I'm sorry, guys, if this video will have noise in the background. I really am sorry. There's just so much going on. But what I learned, I'm not really going to go through the ins and outs of the research I was doing and what I found out and all that. But what I took from it was really nobody in their right mind would be happy to be homeless. Like, I did a lot of work in Kenya with a lot of children in on the streets. In Kenya, we call, you know, people walk around and wanasema tu chokora, chokora, you know, that's how people call at least homeless kids in Kenya. And when you listen to their stories, when we used to listen to their stories, because I volunteered a lot with my friends who were in the church youth group at the time, you would hear, you know, maybe some of the kids would say their parents passed away, and so they, you know, they couldn't find any other family members who were happy to take them in. Others, they were mistreated by their step parents and they had to quit. It was just, there was a story, there's always a story behind why someone is homeless. Now, in Australia, what I learned at the time with the research that I was doing and the people that I met was there's obviously a huge gap. There's actually a gender gap with people who are homeless. There are actually more men or male who are homeless than women. And most of the time, the stories that I gathered at the time was, you know, these men get divorced, and that's how somehow they end up bankrupt, or they lose their jobs, or they get depression, or they struggle with mental health issues, and, you know, drug and alcohol, for, you know, just issues with stress management, and that's how they end up on the streets. So nobody in their right mind would be homeless, right? There's always a story behind someone who is homeless, and that's why I'm always very empathic, and I'm always putting myself in their shoes. If I see someone homeless, I've never been quick to judge why that person is on the streets, probably with a board, you know, asking for some money or asking for help. Anyway, that said, there is a notion in Australia that international students are one. This is now from my experience. The one, when someone hears you're an international student, they would either think, are you a refugee? I've ever been asked by someone, you're not a refugee? And I'm thinking, and I had to ask them, why did you come to that conclusion? They said, oh, because I've always thought all, you know, all people who come from your area, I think you're trying to say Africans or black people, I don't know what they were trying to say, I'll come here as refugees. And so he was like, oh, you came here by plane. Like I wasn't supposed to be offended. But anyway, there's some ignorance that you just have to excuse. For myself, there's so many things that can make you upset, you know, especially in Australia. There's some questions people will ask you. You can, if you really want to get upset, there's so many things to get you upset around here. So there's no point. I don't want to waste my energy with that. But anyway, so I just went, no, I'm an international student. I came here by plane, and I came here to study, all right? Okay. Now, there's that one notion. The other notion is that international students come from rich or wealthy background, or they come from parents who don't have anything to do with their money than send their kids abroad. So there's that whole notion that when you come here, you actually don't even need a job. And I have a feeling the people who came up with, because for those of you who don't know, in Australia, international students are limited to work. So when classes are in session, you can only do 20 hours a week of work. So, but when you close uni, you can do as many hours as you want. But that said, that means you're going to pay more tax. So I remember there was actually a time, I think second year or third year, I remember looking at my pay slip at the end of the year, and I had paid $13,000 in tax. That's a lot of money. Anyway, but I was doing 3 jobs, so that explains. But that said, is if you are not working, if you do not want to rely on your parents to support you, and you want to say, yes, I am a strong person and I want to work and I want to prove myself, because sometimes is you want to prove your parents, you want to prove a point back home that, hey, I'm a strong person, I can take care of myself. But sometimes it's also you want to prove it. Like for my case, it was more of I wanted to prove to myself that I can take care of myself, so without having to rely on my parents or anybody else. But that said, it just hit me that it's almost like there's no sympathy, and there's nobody out there saying, hey, look, you're actually doing a good job. But there's nobody to sympathize with you. And for you to learn, because look, I'm giving my example and my story as an international student pre-COVID. So I wouldn't even start imagining what international students now are going through, because as any international student will have challenges, and some of these challenges are inevitable. You're going to be homesick. You're probably going to have to work more than your counterparts, because you're going to have bills. Your school fees is 3 times more than a local student's school fees. So basically, looking at everything, that means there's so much challenges you're going through. Now imagine those challenges. On top of that, you're dealing with a pandemic. So I actually applaud all international students around the world who are international students at this point in time, because I cannot even imagine. But that said, you can tell that even with how, like for example, the Prime Minister, when COVID happened, what was the first thing he said? There was job seekers payment. Job seekers payment was some money that was set aside to support residents, or at least permanent residents or citizens of Australia who lost their jobs or who are having hardships during the pandemic, when the pandemic started. But international students were not counted in, so they were not supported. And mind you, a lot of them lost their jobs because most international students, they work in retail, hospitality. These were among the industries that were most affected or hit. So they were not supported. But you ask yourself why? Because of the notion that I'm talking about, that is there with people, especially in Australia, that are found that unfortunately, you're an international student. Don't you come from a wealthy family? What was the first thing that he said? Go back home, even when there were no flights. Because he thinks, I could not even fathom. I was he thinking international student parents own choppers and they would just fly by and come and pick their kids and take them? I have no idea. But just that decision in itself will tell you that if I am thinking you're rich or you're wealthy, it's almost like people who are wealthy, people shouldn't sympathize with them when hardships happen. But it just tells you that a lot of students were struggling. And that said, is when I was an international student, I had those things going through my mind every day as I was walking on the streets and I would meet someone who was homeless. I used to tell God, thank you that I have a job. Because mind you, it's not that my parents wouldn't have wanted me back home. They would. Definitely, they would have welcomed me with open arms, because they didn't chase me away. It was my decision to come and study, but they wouldn't want to hear, no parent in their right mind would want to hear their child is struggling in a foreign land. But like I said, so many international students struggle with the idea of, I've invested my time, my parents' money, I've come all the way. There is no way I'm just going to let this slide and then just say I can't manage and go back home. But things happen. For instance, something like when you don't manage to cope. I remember when I was a student, and I used to talk to some of my friends back home, and some of them are very close friends of mine and family members, and they would ask me, because I would say, oh, and they would say, you're up so early, and I'll say, yeah, I'm studying, and it would be like 3 a.m. and I would say, yeah, because I have to go to uni, and then I have to go to work after that, and I have assignments to submit. And they will be like, but when do you sleep? And I'll say, I slept 3 hours, that's enough. I'll sleep the other 2 when I'm on the train. And it's like, but how can you cope with sleeping? Sorry, how can you cope with sleeping 3 hours a day? And I would say, you just keep going. But that said, is you have to understand that I had in mind that I don't want to be homeless. One, I have to find a way to pay my bills without having to trouble my parents. I'm not going back home. I've already come this way. I have to find a way to survive. The other thing I had in mind was I have to take care of myself. So I thought about 3 things. How can I take care of my physical wellness, like physical well-being, like my body, what I eat, and like I said, at least I'm able to say that I can sleep 3 hours and then compensate the other 3 during the day somehow. Some people have to sleep all those hours, like, and I know, like, you need sleep, honestly, for concentration. You know the benefits of sleep, right? But it's also, thinking about how to take care of your mental state as well, your mental health. Um, find sleep, do power naps. I'm a very huge supporter of power naps. Those ones of you attach 2 chairs in your staff room at work and you sleep, like deep sleep. I used to do those ones, and I would set the alarm for half an hour, and I would deep sleep to a point where I'm going to dream in that sleep before I go to my next shift, because sometimes I used to do double shifts. And double shift could be anything between 12 to 14 hours. And I had to. And my body, I even acclimatized to it. I got used to it. Because when you want something so bad, you go that extra mile. The other thing is, my spiritual well-being. I just realized that I needed money, yes. And sometimes I would get double shifts on Sunday, but I knew if I went for double shift on Sunday, I wouldn't have time to go to church. And to me, church was important. It wasn't important because, oh, I'm holier than thou or I'm very spiritual. No. It's because I knew that if I take care of my physical health, my mental health, and my spiritual wellness, my spiritual well-being, I will manage to get to the end of where I wanted to get, which is graduate and finish and still be healthy. So I knew that those 3 elements I had to find a balance and strike a balance. So, and last but not least was, just to understand that I needed support. So I looked at the people around me who, the people who had, the people who really cared about me. I had those. And mind you, these were total strangers. Every person who I'm very close to today in Australia are people that I didn't know before, because when I came here, I came alone. I didn't know anybody. But I've had really, really good support system in this country. Strangers, completely strangers. And mind you, people from different backgrounds. I've had obviously friends from Kenya, I've had friends from Italy, I've had friends from New Zealand, Australians, I've had friends from Indonesia, Malaysia, I've had friends from India, from all over the world. And I don't know where I could be without them. And it just to tell you that sometimes when you connect with like-minded people or people who have your best interest at heart, you can overcome anything that you go through as an international student in any country you be at. So I thought I'd share that with you guys, and I hope you have a lovely week. And please, the message I want to share today is always remember to be kind, and especially be kind to the homeless, because nobody chooses to be homeless, and we are all one decision away from being homeless. All right, till the next one. Don't forget to subscribe and to share and to like this message if it inspires you. All right, bye.